Hey everyone, I'm live on Google Hangouts after a couple of weeks of tryouts on Blab, but apparently that service is going, well, it's not doing well. So I'm back on Google Hangouts. Now let me see how this works again, because it's been a long time. There should be a chat box. There it is. And so I just posted a link, so it'll probably take a while for people to join me. Stay tuned. I'll be back. Okay. All right. Hey, everyone. If you say hi in the chat, I can see who is there. Meantime, I'm going to take a cup of coffee here. I forgot sugar. Headphones. There we go. Wait a minute. Echoed. Okay, there might be something wrong with the audio. Huh. No. Nothing seems to be open in the background. Weird. So how's the audio on everyone's end? Is it okay? Or not? Because I don't have any means to change that. I wonder if it's echoing where that's coming from. I'm not looping back. There's no audio going back into the computer. Nor is it recording anything on the computer. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. I see. Oh, now I understand why I can't see the chat, because the chat window in Google Hangouts is probably for the participants, and it's not the chat on the page. So I apologize if you guys are chatting on the Google, on the what is it? The YouTube page. Let me go there. That, of course, will cause an echo.
What is it? The U.
Okay, now I can see the chat. Good. Okay. All right. Now I can see you all. Hello. Facebook. Oh, okay. So it wasn't on my end. Good. Yeah, I'm not going to use my phone. I've got too many devices surrounding me anyway, so that's not necessary. This is the only thing that matters. Coffee. Oh, there's that guy who always talks about the weather. What is it about the weather? What is it about my weather here? I mean, honestly, look, this is what we have to deal with in the Netherlands for weeks now. What is it with the weather? Hey, Joseph. What is it about the weather? All right, let's test. Okay. As usual, you won't be able to hear the sounds, the jingles. Yeah, we call that rain too. And so much more. Yes, tomorrow I will be in Atlanta. I will be in Hotlanta because it's more than 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, let me just get rid of this. Justice League. The only thing I've heard, James, is that that's going to be a standalone movie. Franciscan video game. Send me the link, or send me some voice feedback. I can integrate it in the show if you want. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to vlog. It all depends on my energy levels and creativity. Wait and see. All right, guys. Let me look up my notes. So Google Hangouts is already recording, which means I don't have to open that window. I can only have Evernote open and that's it. Hey. Whoa. My recorder just stopped. That's weird. How is that? Oh, the batteries are empty. Low battery. Wow. Okay. It's a good thing this happened before I started recording. That's the downside of using IKEA rechargeable batteries. They just stop all of a sudden. All right. Oh my gosh, there's another. It's so much rain. Okay. I'll just use the Energizer Bunny non-rechargeable batteries for this. Hopefully they will last a bit longer. There we go. Test, test, test. Yes, I'm staying at the conference hotel. Are you anywhere near? Hey, Los Angeles. $40? Oh, well, cool. We should meet up. I know. Are you from Kerala? By accident? I know there's a big Catholic community there too. I didn't even know that LA was already up. I leave tomorrow. I arrive, police. Don't know why. So I arrive around 1:30, I think. I'm taking the little train that goes straight to the hotel, and that's where I'll be till Friday. Oh, when I leave, I leave Friday. I think my plane leaves at 7 something. But I know that on Thursday evening, I'm probably gonna have dinner with a couple of the techies, and I assume that would be no problem for you to join. Okay, have a great day. I'm sorry to hear it's so hot in LA. I'll send you a bit of our rain. I think we'd better chat in English because not everyone is Dutch in the chat. Okay, this seems to work. I am going to record, otherwise I'll still be chatting here for weeks. Excellent. VFX Guru. That sounds like a very interesting screen name. Und herzlich willkommen. We have a very international chat room today. Also, jetzt muss ich anfangen. Anfangen? I won't try to speak German. Okay, Joseph, thank you so much. All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if I'm going to do Snapchat. Well, I don't know. I'm not going to promise anything. Right. Sound levels. This is a bit hot for some reason, so I might have to keep my distance a little bit. This is perfect. Which other languages can I speak? Not too many. English, French, Dutch, German, Italian, tiny bit of Spanish. And that's it. Okay, let's go. No, I don't speak Latin. I can read it a little bit, and I can pretend I understand. All right, here we go. This is episode 991. This is The Break, episode number 991, recorded on Tuesday, the 21st of June, 2016. From The Simpsons to the Sacraments, from technology to theology, this show features the cool and the classical, the past and the future, the trends and the tradition. So wherever you are, whatever you're doing, it's time for a break. This episode of The Break is brought to you by my patrons, my loyal supporters who help me to bring you these shows with their financial support, and of course, by their feedback, which I'm very grateful for. You can join them. It is actually a small community over at patreon.com by going to patreon.com/Father Roderick. And even if you sign up for, let's say, $1 a month, $2, whatever you can miss, you help me continue these shows and to do exciting things. And I couldn't do it without your help. So thank you so much if you're a patron. And thank you if you want to become one. While I'm recording this, the rain is pouring down again. We've had about a week and a half with just rain, thick gray clouds in the sky. It's really a bit of a bummer after some really nice, almost summer-like springtime weather. But, well, I guess this just reminds us that we still live in the Netherlands, and this is actually the norm. I remember from when I was little that we would have entire summers like this, where it would rain day after day after day, and we would spend our time playing Stratego and Risk and Monopoly and all those games. And I have fond memories of those vacation days. And of course, we would play with our Star Wars figurines, and we would build Lego castles, or we would play or program video games. So basically, nothing has changed between the time that I was 8 years old and today. I am still spending a lot of time doing exactly those things. The difference is perhaps that today I can present that as part of my research. It's one of the ways in which I kind of keep up to date with what people like in today's world. And well, anyway, if you listen to this show, you know that already. We're going to talk about a lot of things in this episode. I'm recording this the day before I leave for Atlanta. So by the time that you're actually listening to this, I might already be on the East Coast of the United States. I will be there for 3 days for a conference that's called DISC 2016, where a lot of the IT people from the various dioceses in the United States get together, exchange their experiences, and learn from each other. And I was asked this year to come and speak about my experiences using technology, newer forms of media to reach out, and how to do that in an effective way. And of course, I've got 1 or 2 stories to tell there. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm also going to meet a couple of old friends who are in the region there. So that's always a lot of fun. And it's really going to be super brief and intense. But I always love it when I have an excuse to travel to the United States. So all that is well prepared, and I have to say I'm really enjoying this kind of slower time. It's not really vacation yet, but it feels like things are slowing down. I have a little bit more time to read, to clean up my room, to play video games. Oh my gosh, I've played so much World of Warcraft last week. I originally planned on traveling last week, but because of the weather, one of the reasons, I didn't follow up on that. And so I had a week that was completely unscheduled, and I had a lot of fun exploring the world of Azeroth, which is a title of that virtual world that has been around for almost decades. World of Warcraft itself as a game franchise has been around for, what is it, 20 years? World of Warcraft has been around for 10 years, and I have never explored it, but wow, I really, wow, that's the acronym actually for World of Warcraft. Wow. I had no idea it was such a fun game. So I'm going to miss that when I'm in the United States, because I can't play that on my small Apple laptop. But I came up just before recording this episode, I came up with an idea on what to do on the plane, because it's a 10-hour flight, more than 10 hours, actually. The way back is easier because you got a little bit of wind in the back, but it's more than 10 hours to get to Atlanta. And I've decided I'm going to write. I'm not going to watch movies, because I can watch movies at home as well, and I don't like watching movies on a tiny little screen. I'm not going to try to read, because I will fall asleep. Instead, I'm going to write, and I have an idea of writing, perhaps even writing a book or part of it, a small book about that Star Wars priest, because that's how a lot of people know me, because of that, Star Wars trailer reaction video. And I was thinking, you know what? I've got so much to share about what Star Wars means to me and how I relate that to the values in which I believe as a priest, and the things that have changed my life. Why don't I just write that down? I've got there are so many Star Wars parallels with my Catholic life, and well, some people might actually enjoy reading that. So I this morning I sat down in Evernote, wrote down a number of ideas, and I am excited about this. So, well, who knows? You might be actually witnessing the birth of a book, or this might be just an idea that after 2 hours on the plane, I'm thinking, what was I thinking? Not another book. I don't like writing books. Just wait and see. So this week I have one connecting theme between two things that I've seen recently on my TV screen. I'm not going to review the movie theater movies because I've not been to the movies yet. I wanted to go to Captain America. I still haven't seen it. Can you believe that? Only to discover that it was playing in theater number 6, which happens to be the worst calibrated theater that we have in Amersfoort. There is something wrong. This used to be a VIP. How do you call it? It's not a hall. How do you call a movie? A screen? Or well, anyway, they used to have these leather chairs and whatnot, and they only played 2D films there. And then nobody bought those VIP tickets because it was a pretty hefty extra price that you had to pay for that, just for basically a slightly more comfortable chair. And so they started to play 3D games in that theater as well. And I don't know what they did. I've complained about this so many times, but there is something really weird with their calibration. So if you put on the 3D glasses, you see a lot of ghosting, which means you see kind of like with one eye, you see what is actually intended for the other eye. And the 3D seems to go back and forth. And I'm positive, 100% positive that it's not just me, because that's what they told me. It must be you, because we don't get any complaints from other viewers. But I've seen movies in one theater, like in the first theater, in the screening room, and then thank you, chat room, and then I watched the same 3D movie in room 6, and it was a day and night in terms of difference. So unfortunately, they were playing Captain America in screening room 6, so I decided to not go and see it. I will probably, when I'm back from Atlanta, I will travel to Amsterdam, where they have an IMAX theater. Well, that will cost me the price of a train ticket, but at least I will have a good screen. And they usually, because they have so many screening rooms, they play the older movies as well. So I also wanted to watch Jungle Book. Same problem. It was also in screening room 6. So, well, anyway. I still have a list of things that I want to watch as soon as I'm back from the US. What I did watch was actually a television series that I've heard people raving about for years, and I'm sure that you have heard people. It's like it's like vegetarians. People that have watched this TV series cannot not share their experience. And and I can say that because I used to be a vegetarian, and it's always something that came up in the conversation for one reason or another. But anyway, I'm talking about The Wire. The Wire was one of those long television shows, very realistic about the Baltimore drugs scene, and of course about the police force that was trying to contain that somehow. And it was lauded and applauded for its realism, for the amazing acting, for the writing, for the cinematography, whatever. I never watched it. I think at that time as I was watching The Shield, which was also a cool television series with some pretty realistic themes as well. And the main character was the guy who played the Thing in the Fantastic Four, not the most recent Fantastic Four movie, but the one that preceded it, or the two movies that preceded it. He plays a very tough cop, and it was a thrilling series, and never finished it, by the way. I still have to finish it, but anyway, never got time to watch The Wire. Now, it came out on Blu-ray a while ago, and they actually did a fantastic job kind of remastering it. It was filmed originally with widescreen in the back of their minds, but they only switched to widescreen in the third or fourth season. So a little bit comparable to what happened to Star Trek, where they filmed actually a much larger picture than what actually ended up on the television screen. The problem is they couldn't convert it to widescreen using the extra information that was filmed, because usually there would be lamps or microphones or even extras standing on the sides of the screen, and it would be impossible to remove them digitally. It would have been too costly. So Star Trek was remastered on Blu-ray in 4:3, but with The Wire they were able to make some minor adjustments, and they did have to do a little bit of digital correction to make sure that you didn't get any strange elements in the picture. But they kind of remastered it in 16:9, and it just looks gorgeous. It is so well filmed. And I have to say, I've seen 3 episodes now, and I can already tell that this is an amazing television series. I also really love that. The reason that I picked it up, by the way, that it was on sale here in Amersfoort. So I got the entire series on Blu-ray for, what was it, 55 or 59 bucks? Which is a pretty good deal, considering also the incredible amount of extras on those Blu-rays. It's like a ton of episodes with director's commentary, very informative, very interesting, where they talk about the writing process, how they filmed it, and the challenges. And I love that kind of stuff. To me, that is one of the reasons that I don't buy my movies digitally, at least not like on demand, but I want to have them on Blu-ray, because that will allow me to watch those extras, and to me that gives a whole different dimension to what I'm watching. So it slows me down quite a bit, because I'm watching an episode and then I go back and I will rewatch the same episode with director's commentary, and that's really cool. That's fascinating. But anyway, so it's about how the police is using informants and everything to kind of try to get a grip on the drug scene, and well, it's shown from both perspectives, which is very good. The thing that has in common with the other movie that I wanted to review briefly here on the break is this whole idea of there being informants that are spying on other people, and of course it's very dangerous. And the movie that I saw, I picked it up for $1, and it's called The Informant on Blu-ray. Main character is Matt Damon. It was directed by, let me see, it's not even casting by, music by, co-producer, edited by, where's the director? Not even mentioned. Producers, directed by Steven Soderbergh. And it tells the story, and this is a comedy. It tells the story about a guy who works in the corn industry. You know, the sugar, the corn sugar that they put in almost any product everywhere in the world. So this guy works for one of the biggest companies in the United States, and he is witnessing price fixing. And so he decides to inform the FBI and become an informant for the FBI to uncover that. He's kind of an interesting guy, because at the same time, he is still embezzling a lot of money and getting bribed and everything. And I was watching this, and it's very well acted. It's a kind of a small scale movie. It also has Scott Bakula, you know, the president, the captain of the Enterprise in the last Star Trek series that we've seen on TV. which was called Enterprise. So he plays an FBI cop who is trying to steer this informant in the right direction and having a hard time to do that. What makes this movie extra interesting is that, I'm a good friends with Cliff Ravenscraft. And when he was going through the entire, transformation with all the sports and everything, people told him that he looked like Matt Damon. And I think it's true. There is not just a little bit of similarity, there's a lot of similarity. The funny thing is that Matt Damon, for this role, had to play someone who's kind of settled in life and kind of a bit heavy. And when I first saw him, I was like, oh, that looks like Cliff from like 10 years ago, including the mustache. Cliff, if you're listening to this, you got to check this out. You will probably say, oh no, I don't look at all like him. But I was like, wow, there are some similarities there. Not in character, not at all, but definitely in looks. Wow. So yeah, Matt Damon, Cliff Ravenscraft connection. There is something in the universe that is, I don't know, there was some weird connections there. Anyway, had a great time watching. This is a great Blu-ray as well, because it also has very interesting director's commentary, and it's a dialogue between Steven Soderbergh, so the director, and the guy who wrote the script, Scott Burns. And the thing that shocked me most was that at the end of the movie, I discovered that this was based on a real story. This has happened, and that's amazing. It's like, wow, I had no idea. I thought it was just written on purpose for the movie, but no, this is based on a true story. Anyway, the movie is called The Informant, and you are listening to The Break. I'm Father Roderick, and in our next segment, I want to give you an update on my vacation plans. Now, boring. Who cares where you go on vacation? The reason that I mention it is that I asked for your help. As you know, every year I go on vacation with 3 other priests. And this year, it was almost not going to happen because one of us wanted to go on a longer journey, a longer trip. So he would be away from home for 5 or 6 weeks. Then, of course, I have to go to World Youth Day in Krakow in Poland. So there was almost no time left. Well, for diverse reasons, we still managed to secure 10 days during which we can go on a trip together. And so originally we wanted to go to Sweden, and then someone else proposed that we go back to Portugal. And I said, well, if I can have a suggestion, I would love to go back to Scotland, because the last time we were in Scotland, we've been to Scotland once, and we took the boat to Edinburgh, and we stayed in a caravan, like a camper, on the east coast of Scotland, where it's completely flat. And I remember we were in this, it looked like a scene from Harry Potter. We walked up the terrain, and you would see hundreds and hundreds of identical caravans. If you've seen the opening scene of The Neighborhood, where Harry Potter lives with his adoptive family, you see the same houses as far as the horizon goes. Well, this totally had the same, and it had this drab, gray, rainy weather, and it was so tiny and small, and just the completely wrong place to be in Scotland. And we, of course, made some trips in the let's say the eastern area, and of course, some of the cities are interesting, but we only took 1 day during which we traveled to the Scottish Highlands. But it was so far away, it took us like 3 or 4 hours to get there, and then it was a day on which it was raining and misty, so it did have that kind of Scottish weather, and I had fond memories of that day, but it was just 1 day, and then we went back to our stupid caravan. So I always felt like, oh man, I've had a taste of what Scotland looks like, and we never went back. And year after year now, we go to these hot countries where it's like 40 degrees Celsius, and it's so extremely, it's always sunny, and that's fine. But I want to go on an adventure. My Tookish heart is like, I crave the visit of Gandalf, who tells me that he needs me and he wants me to go to the Highlands of Scotland. I am going on an adventure. Well, it is going to happen. And I've asked some of you, because they agreed, And I said, you know what? I'm going to crowdsource this. I'm going to ask for advice. I know that I have some people in my audience that are from Scotland. They will give us some tips of where to go. Man, I got even tips all the way up to the bishop of the diocese over there. And like the diocese is almost the entire Scotland. And he's an abbot, where he used to be an abbot. He's now a bishop. And I know someone in England who I've met at several occasions who has worked with him, and he was like, you just call him up. You know, the bishop, he knows his diocese. He can tell you where you can go, and perhaps he might even know presbyteries where you can stay, and just get his advice. He will love it if you contact him. I didn't do that; it wasn't necessary, because we had a ton of great tips. Ian Maxfield was also giving us some great tips. Of course, you might know him from Catholic Laboratory. So he had a podcast about science and faith. Very, very interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if the archives are still on iTunes. So just look for Catholic Laboratory and take a listen. It's really worth your time, and it's kind of timeless content anyway. And he told me to go in the area of Ullapool. I love that name, Ullapool. It's a funny name. So that's where we looked for a cottage, and we found one near the sea. It's northwest of Ullapool. So it's if you look from the living room, you can see the shore, you can see the sea, but it's also a great place. It's like in the middle of Scotland, and there are good connections. So from there we can go on many tours, and I hope we're going to do just a lot of walking, and I think I'm excited. It's probably not going to be a very sunny vacation. I totally expect it to be cold and rainy, the kind of weather that I see outside, but it's going to be in Scotland, and I can tolerate rain very, very well if I am in the Highlands. And so the other day, for Father's Day, I went to my parents, and both my parents are absolutely they're Scotland freaks, you know, that they would always go there on vacation. Actually, my mom told me yesterday, what day is it today? No, it's the day before yesterday, on Sunday. She told me that when I was 1, they wanted to go to Scotland on vacation, and they brought me to my grandparents, where I stayed for a couple of weeks, and they were exploring exactly the same area that I'm going to explore now, 48 years later. And my dad, he was like, oh, I'm gonna show you my books. I've got so many guides. And so he brought me this guide. I have it here where is it? I thought I had it in my room here. It must be in the other room. Anyway, he's like, oh, you gotta take a look at this. And it's this old book from the 50s with 25 natural color photographs. And so it's like, in the time, most of those books were in black and white, so that book must have cost a fortune. And it's got these big views of the Scottish landscape, and he was showing me all these places that I should visit. And at first I was like, that book is so old. It's like 50, 60 years old. But my dad, I think he was right. He said, you know what, in Scotland it's probably going to be exactly like that. Nothing changes there. There are not too many people living there anyway, so most of those photos will probably, the landscape will look exactly the same. So I'm totally looking forward to this new re-encounter with the Scottish people, the Scottish culture. Actually, now that I think of it, I should ask Inge. I might have done podcasts while I was there. I did podcasts from Ireland, or perhaps I did film. You know what? I'm going to look in my archives and see what kind of material I have. If I filmed when I was in Scotland, then I probably never edited it, and I never posted it, because this is more than 10 years ago, and I don't think that YouTube was around at that time. So chances are that you've never seen or heard whatever I did there. And I must have done something. I just can't remember. It's been so long what exactly I made. But if I can find it, if it's video, I'll definitely post it on my YouTube page, so you can take a look at what we filmed then. And I'm, of course, taking my equipment with me, and I'm going to record there. That's my kind of vacation. being in beautiful landscapes and telling stories and bringing you along. That's always what I love to do. So the only downside is the cottage doesn't have internet. There is no internet. Oh, I remember, Inga reminds me in the chat room that I did Godspeed, tiny little videos. And we went, actually, we went to a monastery where they filmed the, how'd you call that? The cloister of the School of Hogwarts. And actually spoke with one of the guys who was a supervisor there, and he told me how they filmed that, and amazing. I don't think we get anywhere near there, and but you know what? It's Scotland, so it's going to be amazing. It's going to be awesome. All right, I'll repost links to those videos if they're still online, and otherwise I will just repost them or re-edit them in the weeks to come as a preparation, kind of as a taste maker for those 10 days in Scotland. This time we're not going to take the boat, by the way. We're going to fly to, I think, to Inverness, and then from there we're going to rent a car, and yeah, it's going to be awesome. But it might take a while before you see my adventures, because of the lack of internet. Well, I'll do my best. Let's go to Atlanta first. You're listening to The Break with Father Roderick. Time to take a short break. This episode of The Break is brought to you by the Amazon store. If you shop at Amazon, there is a very easy way for you to support our work over at SQPN by clicking on the affiliate link before you place your order. So the only thing you have to do is to go to sqpn.com and look for that Amazon banner. And we've got links also to the UK store and I think the French and the German store, if I'm not mistaken. If you click those links and then go to Amazon, it won't cost you extra, but Amazon will share a little bit of their profit with us, which of course we are very happy with. It helps us pay the bills, and we have a ton of bills. I've mentioned in previous episodes that we had to move up to a more expensive monthly subscription to the server that we're using to bring you these shows, and so we hope that you want to help us finance that, because we're working on a very small budget, and every help is welcome. So you can go to sqpn.com, by the way, also, and become a friend of SQPN. Just click on the appropriate link and that will give you some more information. We've been able to do this for more than 10 years now, exclusively because you made it possible financially. And we hope you continue to do that, because we're not done podcasting yet. All right. Another way to support us is by signing up for an account at Bluehost. Bluehost is a great company. I have a major site on Bluehost. One of the advantages of Bluehost is that they offer everything from very, very small, super affordable miniature websites where you can just have your own WordPress blog, but then you can scale up. The more you grow, the more Bluehost can grow with you. And so we're running our Trideo website on a Bluehost account, and it's what I like about it is that they take care of the server, so we don't have to install and maintain the Apache and the server itself. If there are problems, security problems, they patch everything. The only thing we can focus on is on the website itself, which of course is much more fun than having to do server maintenance. So that's why I can heartily recommend Bluehost. And if you click on the banner on our website before you sign up, that too will help SQPN quite a bit. And of course, the final way in which you can support us is by leaving reviews for our shows on iTunes. In the iTunes store, you can give it either a 5-star rating or any stars you can miss. And if you really have a little bit of time, we would appreciate it if you would write down a little bit of feedback about what we do as well. And that will point other people to these shows. Thanks in advance. You're listening to The Break. I'm Father Roderick. In my latest episode of The Walk, which is the other weekly podcast that I do, I talked a little bit about, I was kind of thinking out loud about my talk in Atlanta. So this is a talk for people that work in the IT departments of their dioceses. Usually when I have a talk, I tell stories about how I use modern media to communicate. And this time I have to kind of give it a little bit of a spin towards the technology aspects of it and how to use new technology in an effective way. And so, well, I might share some of that stuff later on with you as well. Because I love myself some technology. But first, let's talk about books. And of course, I'm a big fan of Blinkist, which is this summary service. I don't know how to describe it otherwise. It's instead of you having to read the entire book, they will summarize it in a summary that you can read sometimes in 10 or 15 minutes. And they really narrow down to the bullet points and takeaways, and it saves me a ton of time, not to mention a ton of money. If you go to the airports, and that's one of the things I always love to do when I have a layover, for instance, just go walk up to these bookstores and just check out the latest top 10 of nonfiction books. And oftentimes I'm almost on the verge of buying the book, but it's like, I don't know, $15, $20, $25 sometimes. I'm thinking, when am I going to read this? And will it be worth my time? Will it be worth my money? Well, the advantage of Blinkist is that I can check out those books in 15 minutes. And then I know, well, wow, I would love to read the original book, or this isn't worth my time. And so in this segment of the show, I'd love to kind of share with you the stuff that I've sampled on Blinkist. And today I've got a number of books. The first one that I read was As We Speak by Peter Myers and Shan Nix. And this was about public speaking. And since I was preparing for my talk in Atlanta, I figured that might be a good read. So it's about how to speak in public, which is something that I have a bit more experience with than some other people. And that was also for me a bit of the downside of the book. It is really written for beginners, people that get sweaty hands when they even think of talking to a group that is bigger than 3 people in a bar. And so it gives a lot of kind of super basic tips. I mean, they're valuable, and a lot of it I can totally agree with on how to prepare a talk, how to keep people engaged, which is always the challenge for a speaker in any circumstance, whether you're doing a podcast or you're speaking in public or you're doing a homily in church. What you want is that people keep listening. And so it is something that you can only acquire if you know your audience, and if you keep them engaged by the way you speak. You hear from the tone of my voice is changing all the time. Have a pretty big range in terms of the melody of my phrases. Well, that makes a huge difference to, let's say, someone who is like, so I'm going to talk to you today about a book that I've read on Blinkist, and I can tell you it's worth your time. It's about the universe and about astronomy, and I can say exactly the same with a different type of voice. Like, oh, I read this book on Blinkist, and it was about the universe and about astronomy in particular, and you won't believe what is in chapter 8. It is about Pluto and the recent discoveries. And what you see, but I'm just making this up, of course. I've not read a book about Pluto, but it's a different style of narrating. And so one of the tricks that I use to keep my audience engaged is speaking in a visual style. Tell stories in such a way that people have a mental picture. That's what I'm trained to do with podcasting for 10 years. You got to kind of create a world inside the head of your listener. And with when I was doing the Catholic Insider podcast, literally, I had to describe the landscapes, the cities that I visited. I couldn't show people like I can do on YouTube, but I had to describe everything. And so with my talk in Atlanta, I'm going to do the same, but I'm not going to use a PowerPoint. I use objects, and they're actually here on the couch. I still have to pack them. And one of the objects is a lightsaber. No surprise there. Another one is a tiny little wooden box, and it contains the secret to communication with parents and their children. It's inside that wooden box. Now, wouldn't you want to know what's inside that box? I'm not going to tell you. You'll have to come to Disc in Atlanta. So that anyway, there are a bunch of other objects as well that I will take with me, and I will tell the story by taking an object and then telling why I took that object with me. I've tried that out multiple times. It works really well. So that's one book. Oh my gosh, my time is already up. It's crazy. It's time for the Peculiar Bunch. I'll keep the other Blinkist reviews for the next episode of The Break. So here at the Peculiar Bunch, we're always happy to tell you everything you always wanted to know about Catholics and their tradition, but you were just afraid to ask. Exactly 1 year ago, Pope Francis published a document that he was extremely proud of and which was near and dear to his heart. It was the famous document, the encyclical letter about the environment, and also it's not just the environment, it's about the environment and poverty in the world and how to share the treasures of this world with anyone on this planet, because this earth was not just given to us for our enjoyment, and then too bad for all the people that are not enjoying it because they're living in countries where there is drought, where there's war. We were given this gift so we can give this gift to each other, and we can share this gift with each other. And that's something that's been really on my mind. And Pope Francis, in this encyclical letter, connects this whole theme of taking care of each other on this planet with the environment. And I think that's the proper, the Catholic way to do it. It's not just for the sake of Mother Nature that we talk about the preservation of the earth. It's not that all of a sudden we should all go off the grid and live in caves again. And then sometimes with some environmental, let's say, very activist people, you almost get the sense that mankind should not be here on Earth. We are only destroying the planet. Well, that may be true, but the solution is not to eradicate mankind or mankind's impact on the world, on creation, so that nature can be itself. But it is because we have a responsibility to do with this gift what God intended, and that is to share. If there's one common theme in every Bible story, is that God is someone who shares everything he is with his people and wants us to follow that example, because that's what's going to make us happy. That's what's going to make this world a better place. And the environment, a lot of the environmental problems that we have stem from our egotism, from our self-centeredness, because we only think about our instant gratification, and we're sacrificing this gift for our own benefit and our own pleasure, and we don't even think about the fact that this gift is also there for our children and grandchildren, for the generations that follow us, for the people that live in disadvantaged areas on our planet. And so the way to kind of cure the world is by taking care of each other again, and be more aware that whatever you have it, you've received it as a gift. You won't be able to take it with you from this planet as either. When you die, you're going to be just as naked as you were when you came into this world. So what matters is, what do you do in the meantime with what you have? And to me, that central question of Laudato Si, because that's the title of the encyclical letter, in case you haven't read it yet. Laudato Si, but by the way, comes from this beautiful song that Saint Francis wrote about, you would say, about nature, but it's about creation. It's about the beautiful gifts of the sun, the moon, the stars, the cold, the rain, the whatever. It's all there. Those are gifts to us, signs of how much God loves us and how much He wants us to pass this on. That central question, what do you do with what you have received, is a question that we should actually ask ourselves every morning. What am I going to do with my gifts? How can I share that? And not to do that in a, let's say, in an attitude of guilt, like, oh, I'm not sharing enough, or I'm too rich, I have such a good life and that's not fair, but you know what, I don't want to think about it too much, I'm just going to enjoy. It's more of a, I think, more of a challenge. It makes life interesting if you ask yourself the question, how today can I share something with someone else? I used to do this almost as an exercise during Lent, where every day I would try to give something away of what I had, whether it is a euro for a street newspaper to a homeless person, or share some food to the local food bank for people that don't have enough money to buy food, or presents for other people. Just give away something. It happened so often that I had visitors and they would look at my collection of movies and like, oh, I think you've got such cool movies. And I just, you just pick whatever movie you want to watch, and you don't have to return it. Would be my gift to you. They're like, oh no, I can't do that. No, I'll bring it back. It's like, I don't need it. I've already seen that movie. I've enjoyed it. It is in my memory. I don't want to hold on. And this is something that there's sometimes in my life that I'm better at this than other times. But what I'm striving for is to live in a certain simple way, kind of a minimalist way almost. I don't want to be attached to objects because of their sentimental value, because ultimately the sentiment, the emotion, is not in the thing, it's in me. I can keep a ton of things because they remind me of times that I had, of people that I knew, but those things are not in the object, they're in my mind. And I don't get me wrong, I have nothing against keeping important, precious objects. Look at my room. I've got bookshelves. I've got my geek shelves here with the figurines, the Star Wars figurines that I played with as a child. We've got my chocolate Darth Vader helmet. I've got a TARDIS teacup. I like those things, and I don't see a necessity to throw them away. But if it becomes clutter, if it starts to become this desire to always accumulate more and have more without giving away, then I should make some changes, and I should be able to detach myself from some things. And I think we should act like that with everything we have. It's not a sin to have a car. It's not a sin to have money on the bank, but it becomes problematic if you hold on to it and it's yours and you're not going to share, and you protect it from other people, and it's all about you. It should be the opposite. I can use my car to go visit my parents and make them happy. I can use my car to bring me to work, to take someone along with me. I can use the geek stuff that's here in my room to bring joy to other fellow geeks, because they will recognize that, and it can show it on camera and my YouTube movies, etc., etc. So the Lego that I have, I love Lego, and if I'm not careful, I'll become this Lego hoarder, and I'll want to have every single bit of Lego that's out there. But Lego is expensive, and it's a bit of a luxury. I don't need Lego. So when I get a new Lego figurine, I'm always thinking, can I also use this for a video game, for a catechesis video or whatnot? Not perhaps every single little bit of it, but I'm always thinking of how can I like this, and how can I make it useful for other people as well? Has this more use than just my own personal gratification? That is the challenge, and that makes life interesting. It also makes it much easier to share and to get rid of stuff you don't really need. There might be other people that will have a blast with your stuff. All the things that we think we need, life might be a lot easier, lighter, if we are also able to part with it, and preferably before we die. Because there's going to be a time that I will lose all my Legos. Can't take them to heaven. Just a quick reminder that if you want to follow my videos, you might want to subscribe to my YouTube feed over at youtube.com/FatherRoderick. And that way, whenever I post a new video, it's a bit like podcasting, you will get a notification. When you open YouTube, it will show a list of channels that you follow, and if there is a new episode, it will have a small indicator so you know that there is a new video to watch. Might be interesting for the times that I'm going on a trip. I'm not vlogging every day. I don't want to bore you with the uneventful stuff in my life, but whenever I go somewhere where there's something to experience, something to learn, yeah, I love to make vlogs. And if you want to support those vlogs, there is also a way to become an episode supporter, an episode patron, by going over to patreon.com/geekpriest. So you've got Father Roderick for the monthly patrons, but also Father Roderick, patreon.com/geekpriest if you want to sponsor an episode of my vlog. And I've got a number of people who do that. And I have to say, honestly, it's motivating to know that people actually value those vlogs and are happy when there's a new episode. And of course, it also helps me pay for equipment and more of that. All right, let's continue on with the show. It is time for our final segment, which is almost always, about apps and social media and technology. Well, we had two major events in the past few weeks, both of which have more than a little of my attention. The first one is E3. It is the Electronic Entertainment Expo. It's like 3 E's. That's why it's called E3. And that is usually the event during which the big gaming companies and like Microsoft and Sony PlayStation, but also players like Valve. Gosh, what else have we got? EA. God, all those gaming companies. They present their games, or they will show you glimpses of games in development. And of course, this year it's particularly exciting because one of the big things that is actually happening and that I've been looking forward to for years is the virtual reality. I'm not sure if it's going to be a revolution, but it's definitely going to be a game changer, literally, because it's going to change the way in which we play certain games. For me, the biggest thing in that transition to, well, VR becoming something that is actually a consumer product is PlayStation. The PlayStation VR goggles that are coming out in a lot of countries, among which, for the first time, I'm so glad, the Netherlands is part of the international first launch. So it's a VR set, and if you combine that with the PlayStation camera, which you have to buy separately, so it's going to be a pretty hefty price tag. I think the goggles are like $399. The camera is $50, if I'm not mistaken, and then you can even have those ping pong balls, with lights in them. And I still have a set of those that I got with my PlayStation 3. Never ever used them, but apparently you can use those as manual controls for the games in VR. And from what I've heard, there are some pretty neat launch games that come out. But what was even more exciting to me was what they showed. There's a Star Wars game in development, and it is going to be you flying in the cockpit of an X-Wing fighter. And it is in 3D. And it is in VR. And you can actually attack TIE fighters and, I don't know, perhaps even the Death Star. And it will feel as if you are inside the cockpit of an X-Wing fighter. This is what I've been dreaming of for most of my life. Definitely most of my youth. I remember playing the CD-ROM game years ago. This was when I was still a young priest at the university, and we had one computer with a CD-ROM drive, which at that time was very exceptional. I mean, a CD-ROM drive, you'd pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for that. And I bought a game which was about the trench run with the X-Wing fighters, and it was basically a scripted, like a QuickTime movie. and if you would press left, it would go left and right. So it was extremely limited, and it was all pre-rendered. Man, it had the blaring, the Star Wars music blaring from the tiny speakers next to the computer. Because it was pre-rendered, it looked fantastic. I mean, of course, in those days, any 3D animation was totally impossible because we were still working with Pentium computers, if you were lucky. So none of that was possible in real time. Nowadays, of course, we can do stuff that looks even better, and it's all rendered in real time. Let alone in a couple of years from now, when all that, with high resolution screens, VR, as we're getting to know it this year, is probably going to look like a Windows 3.1 looks to a Windows 10 user nowadays. It's going to be so old-fashioned because technology is hopefully going to get a boost from this whole VR phase that we're going to go through. So anyway, I'm very much looking forward to seeing real games, not just the Google Cardboard type of stuff where it's kind of fun, but if you have a Google Cardboard, how often do you really use it? And if you use it, for how long do you use it? I use it a couple of minutes and I kind of get bored of it or sick because it's nauseating. Depending on the software and the phone, it's not always the best experience. Well, I think that everything indicates that Sony got it right this time, and they're even going to bring out like a new version of the PlayStation, which is a bit more powerful, specifically to make the VR experience even better. So these are great times. I'm very, very curious to see where this will take us. And hey, Star Wars in 3D, VR Star Wars, yeah. All right, I'm sold. The other big event these past few weeks was the Apple Worldwide Developers Conference, which always takes place is it Palo Alto? And there are always a lot of Apple rumors. I have to say that for the past few events, my excitement has been much less compared to the glory days of Apple. I just the other day for the walk, I talked about Steve Jobs, and this was unrelated to technology. It was about his commencement speech at university, what he said about life and death. If you want to hear my take on that, check out the latest episode of The Walk. But anyway, because of that, I rewatched a number of keynotes or parts of keynotes from the Steve Jobs era, and I just got just as excited as I was at that time. That man had the talent to make you excited about technology, and he had such an amazing presentation. Whereas Apple in the past few years have been bringing out very good products, but nothing that made my heart jump. I was like, oh my gosh, that is amazing. I was like, oh, that's okay, that's cool. Even the Apple Watch that I was pretty excited about the concept, the execution was kind of like, not really. Yeah, I'll wait. And Apple never did that to me. Apple was in the Steve Jobs era. It was always like, oh, when can I get that? and nowadays it's like, oh, that's nice. And WWDC this year was even a bit less than that. It's just software, and they were talking about the new Apple Watch operating system, which is kind of okay, but since I don't have that watch, I'm not like, oh, this is such a big leap forward. It basically states the obvious to me, and that is, if you want to run a program, it should execute immediately without having to load from your phone. It's what I've been saying all along. It's like, I don't want an Apple Watch that needs a phone to function. I want this to be a standalone thing. Before it is, if it's not standalone, I'm not going to buy it because I don't want to be tied to an Apple phone. It's not practical. So, and then they did a lot of, they talked about the new iOS 10. Nowadays you should call it Mac OS. So again, a new version, some interesting changes, but nothing really has made me go like, oh, wow, Apple is redefining the desktop. No, it's just like, I can't even tell you what it was that they showed up. Like, oh, that's nice. But The one thing that struck me was that it seems as if Apple is more and more becoming its own world, where you really have to step into it, and then once you're in, it's kind of hard to get out. And I'm not sure if I really like my iPhone 6 because of its huge memory and great camera. Do I want to be tied forever to the iOS environment? No. Actually, the other day I was using my Android phone, the OnePlus One, and I was like, oh wow, I just forgot how cool it was to be an Android. And I'm running Android, the latest Android version. What is it? Uh, uh Escapes me. They had Lollipop and Kit Kat and whatnot. Well, anyway, the latest brand, and it was just very, very well executed and a joy to use. So I enjoy that. Oh, one last thing. I heard that Google has made the Play Store for Android available, the programs available on their newest Chromebooks. That is so smart because all of a sudden those Chromebooks, which always had to be tethered to the internet and were kind of really simple computers, now that they have access to anything that has been made for Android, all of a sudden have like a massive app store. Imagine that you could run iOS programs on your Mac. How awesome would that be? It's not possible right now, but Google made that move. And I'm right now, I was like, my next computer, instead of getting an expensive MacBook Air, might be a Chromebook. Why not? I already have a lot of great apps for Android, which I enjoy using, including a lot of fantastic games. If I can play them on a bigger screen, oh yeah, with a bit more CPU power and memory, that can only go upwards. So anyway, that's my take on these two events. Exciting, always cool to see the latest developments. I'm most excited, I have to say, about VR. Oh, one last thing. I've talked about Star Wars X-Wing Fighter. There's another VR experience that, of course, you understand I'm super excited about, and that is Star Trek Bridge Crew. Have you seen that video? If not, Google it. Go to YouTube, type in Star Trek Bridge Crew. The graphics look a bit crude and a bit old-fashioned, but you actually can play this with 4 other people, and you are on the bridge of the USS Enterprise. You can actually be a navigator, a captain, a science officer, a communications officer on the virtual bridge of the Enterprise. Awesome. So cool. I mean, my Star Trek fan heart just missed a beat there. That's how excited I was. And this is just the beginning. This is only going to become more and more exciting and more realistic over time. So these are great times to be a geek. All right, speaking of Star Trek, a little bit of a sad news broke because the 27-year-old actor who plays Chekhov in the new movies, including the movie that's about to come out, has died in an accident with a car. Very, very sad to hear that. I also talk about that in the latest episode of The Walk. But yeah, it's going to be so strange to see that Star Trek movie and seeing him. And I thought he did such a great job bringing that character to life. And he's no longer with us. Ugh. I just hope that when he gets to heaven, Leonard Nimoy will be there to show him around. That's one of the things that I like about my faith, is that no one is gone forever. There will be a time when we can, we have eternity. So I'm sure that there will be half an hour that I can spend with Leonard Nimoy and talk about Star Trek, right? But perhaps we'll have better things to do up there in heaven. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Break. I'm Father Roderick. I will keep you up to date via my Facebook and Twitter accounts about my trip in Atlanta, and I'll be back before you know it. Thanks for listening, and take care. God bless. And it's a wrap. All right. Well, it seems to me that this is a pretty stable solution, right? To Google Hangouts.
Shoot page. Let me go there.
Oh. I couldn't read all the things in the chat, so but it works. Yeah, when I'm podcasting, my brain shuts down and my memory banks are inaccessible. So I'm very glad that the chat room helps out. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of chocolate, by the way. I wish I was sponsored by Sony. Marshmallow, yeah. Yeah, I like this better too. The image is also better than Blab. I think so. So anyway, I was glad to be able to record this show before I leave. I'm going to upload this and then I'm going to make my final preparations. Tomorrow I have to wake up early, 5:45, in order to go to the airport with all the security. But yeah, I'm cool. This is the first time that I go on a trip that I feel like everything under control. So I'm just going to enjoy this. All right. Thanks for stopping by. I'll talk to you guys later.